What's up everyone, VoxHeretic here. Today I want to talk about a talent that I see recommended constantly for Havoc 40, and this talent is True Grit. My reasoning for making this video is I've had a couple comments on my Arbites build video on YouTube addressing the fact that I don't take True Grit, and I'll show you. Yeah, see, don't take True Grit on my talent tree. Anyway, I wanted to do a deep dive into this talent and really break it down to explain to you guys whether this talent is a 100% must-have guaranteed pick into Havoc 40 or if it's something that you could leave off the table and take other things instead. So let's get one thing straight. I am not saying that True Grit is a bad talent. It's great. It can save you in certain situations. But when it comes to Havoc 40 specifically, I don't think True Grit is necessary. And I think a lot of players have gotten to the point where they treat True Grit like it's mandatory for surviving high level content. I don't agree with that. So let's talk about why. True Grit is appealing because it gives you something that feels incredibly valuable in Havoc. It gives you a safety net. When you're taking damage, having that extra defensive layer can allow you to make your personal mistakes much less punishing in a very punishing environment. And that's obviously a very valuable asset, right? Havoc 40 hits hard, enemies hit hard, ranged enemies hit hard. Specials can delete you if you're caught in the wrong position. So on paper, anything that makes you harder to kill sounds like an automatic pick. But here's the problem. Survivability isn't just about how much damage you can take. It's also about how often you're actually putting yourself into situations where you need that extra survivability. And that's where I think True Grit starts losing some of its value. Okay, so before I get into the next part of this rant, I just want to say that this game in general, just like Vermintide, I'm a 3,000 hour Vermintide player. So it's much the same in Darktide, but high level in Vermintide, when you got up to like kata and doing kata deeds and Twitch mode and all that crazy stuff that gets ridiculously hard, the end goal of high level content in Vermintide was learning how to avoid damage. You didn't really ever want to be losing your health bar willy-nilly, you know? And to bring it back into Darktide, it's much the same over here in this game. The higher you go in terms of skill, your focus should be around trying to mitigate the damage taken as much as possible. That is what is growing your skill in Darktide. You're learning how to avoid things like crusher overheads, mauler overheads, ragers. You're learning how to sidestep trapper nets and mutants coming at you, and learning how to bash dogs or while you're looking at them or not. You know, that is seeing your skill improve in Darktide is avoiding the damage, not eating the damage. Your health bar in Darktide is a resource, and you should be spending the health as a resource, not from you making a mistake, right? So with that out of the way, now that we explained that, let's go back to the next section. The higher you climb in Havoc, the more important positioning becomes. You need to understand when to push, when to hold, when to back up, when to rotate, and most importantly, when you are about to get overwhelmed. If you're consistently taking unnecessary damage because you're standing in the middle of a horde getting shot by every gunner on the map or allowing specialists to get free hits on you, True Grit isn't gonna fix that. It's just making the mistake less expensive, so to speak. And that's an important distinction. A defensive talent can save you from a mistake, but good positioning can prevent that mistake from happening in the first place. And that is kind of what I was getting at previously. the the whole point is to get better as a player, avoid damage, play really well as a team, have good positioning. That's why True Grit, if we take a look at the node, right, it's going to limit the maximum amount of health damage taken from an attack to 50. So in reality, True Grit is really only helping you from overheads and I think maybe bursters. But in Havoc 40, a lot of people are dying to gunners, and they're dying to gunners because of bad positioning. They're running out in the open or engaging somewhere they shouldn't be fighting, and they're fighting in unfavorable terrain, which is going to kill you 100% of the time, whether you have True Grit or not. I have played Darktide for quite a while, and I have played with several RBD's players who are running True Grit, and almost every single one of them dies. And the reason they die is because they run ahead or they have bad positioning, just thinking to themselves, "Oh, fuck it, I have True Grit, so whatever," and then they get clapped. And it's not always on Havoc 40. Sometimes I see people do this in Auric Maelstroms or lower Havocs. It's not just 40s. But good team play and positioning, you never really benefit or get value from True Grit. If you have a team that is playing super well, super coordinated, True Grit is not really going to be the deciding factor on whether or not you stay alive or not. Wouldn't you much rather have like more critical hit chance or more cooldown or more move speed or more weak spot damage? Like there's so many other things on this talent tree that are super strong. Wouldn't you rather have those instead of having a node that's going to allow you to make mistakes and have them be less punishing? Wouldn't you rather just be rewarded for good play? Anyway, all right. And this is probably the biggest reason I don't automatically take True Grit for every single build. Talent points are valuable. Every point you spend on True Grit is a point you aren't spending somewhere else. And depending on your build, there can be talents that give you more damage, right? More mobility, more stamina, more ability regen, more crowd control, more toughness regeneration, or better synergy with the rest of your build. And in Havoc 40, killing something before it becomes a problem is often just as valuable as being able to survive it. If I can invest those points into something that allows me to delete dangerous enemies faster, control a horde more efficiently, or keep my resources flowing, I'd rather do that than take a defensive talent simply because it's considered the safe option. So here's the biggest misconception around True Grit. If you're playing Havoc 40, you need every possible defensive option. I don't think that's true. I think you need the right defensive options. There's a difference. You don't want to build your character around the assumption that you're constantly going to be taking massive amounts of damage. You want to build around controlling the situations that cause that damage. And that means understanding your class, understanding your weapons, your stamina, enemy behavior, and understanding when to disengage. That is the biggest part. Havoc 40 is won by that awareness. Everything spawns in. You got to back up to like a prior choke. You don't want to get flanked. You don't want to get pinched, right? Knowing when to disengage to create that favorable fighting environment, that is what's going to save your life. It's not going to be True Grit. Because in the situations where your team decides to drop back a little bit, and then the Arbides with True Grit decides to push further ahead, they're just going to aggro and spawn more stuff. And True Grit isn't going to save them, and then they're going to die. And then their team is going to run to go revive, maybe, or they'll just let the Arbides player die. They're going to run over to him, try to revive, and then the whole team is going to die. Congratulations, you just wiped. Right? Anyhow, so now that we've covered the bad sides of True Grit, I want to talk about now the upsides to True Grit, right? Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that you should never use True Grit. There are absolutely builds where I think it's a great choice. If you're newer to Havoc 40 or just newer to the game in general, go ahead and take it. It's not going to hurt anything. If you're playing a build that naturally finds itself taking a lot of damage, take it. Whatever. If you're still learning how to manage positioning and enemy pressure, you're still getting an idea of, how to go about things, go ahead and take it. If you're playing with randoms, now this is a very key thing I wanted to mention because playing with randoms can be quite unbearable sometimes. So if you have no cohesion, like with your squad, and everyone's just doing a free for all, just running off, doing whatever they want to do, just take True Grit because it will probably save you. Completely understand taking it in that, circumstance. There's nothing wrong with having that safety net, but that's what I see True Grit as. It's a safety net. It's not a requirement. If you want to take True Grit, go ahead and do that. But I don't think it's mandatory. Not at all. So now I want to cover why I don't take it personally, right, for this build. Okay, why I don't take True Grit. This is an amazing build, by the way. You should try it. You should try it if you haven't. It's great. For me personally, I'd rather spend those points making my build better at doing what it's supposed to do. If I'm playing a melee build, I want to improve my ability to control and kill enemies. If I'm playing a range build, I want to maximize my ability to eliminate threats before they reach me. If I'm playing a support-oriented build, I want to maximize the tools that allow me to keep my team functioning. And if I'm playing something like my Hive Scum builds, I want my talents to work together as a system. I'm not interested in taking a talent simply because it's popular. I want to ask, what does this actually give my build? And more importantly, what am I giving up to take it? That's the question I think more people need to ask themselves when they make their own builds. So let's talk about the real way you can survive Havoc 40 outside of taking True Grit. Honestly, one of the strongest defensive tools you have in Havoc 40 isn't a talent. It's decision making, knowing when to back up, knowing when to stop pushing, knowing when the team needs to regroup, which enemy needs to die first, knowing when you're about to lose control of a situation. That's what keeps you alive. You can have an incredibly defensive build and still get destroyed because you made a bad decision. And you can have a build with significantly less defensive investment and survive consistently because you're controlling the fight properly. That's why I don't believe True Grit is mandatory. I have personally, this is a side note, but I've completed Havoc 40 with Hive Scum builds, and Hive Scum builds are not tanky. There's no True Grit. There's no True Grit at all. You see people all the time on YouTube, like Reginald, do a true duo on Skitari. There's no True Grit, right? Like, you don't need this talent. It's not mandatory. So here's my final thoughts. So if you're playing Havoc 40 and you're currently using True Grit, I'm not telling you to take it off. If it's helping you survive, keep it. But don't feel like you have to take it just because everyone says it's one of the best defensive talents. Experiment. Look at what you're actually dying to. Look at how often True Grit is genuinely saving your life. And then ask yourself, could these talent points be doing something more useful for my build? Because at the end of the day, Havoc 40 isn't about building the character that can take the most punishment. It's about building a character that can control the mission. And sometimes the best defense isn't taking less damage. It's making sure the enemy never gets the opportunity to hurt you in the first place. The best defense is a good offense, right? True Grit is good. I just don't think it is necessary. And that's the difference. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to drop a like, subscribe, and let me know in the comments. Do you run True Grit in Havoc 40, or have you dropped it from your builds? And if you want to run Havoc, Theorycraft builds, or just talk Darktide, come hang out with us in the Steel and Heresy Discord. I've also got streams over on Twitch at VoxHeretic. Be sure to come check me out over there. Thanks for watching. Accept the Seal of Steel, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care, guys.